Okay, viewers, subscribers, how's it going out there? I'm about to continue and get into this video that pretty much set it off for me doing vids for compatibility vids rather for signs that are other than mine. Okay, and it's Aries man and Aries woman. I don't want to sound like a hater. However, I know I'm probably going to sound like a hater to people who like calling people haters, because as much as I like to see all compatibilities work, I see this becoming a more of an episode more than it's a relationship or a striving to become compatible. And the reason why is because Aries is such a singular energy, That's not enough though, right? I need more meat and potatoes for you to really understand what I'm saying. Well, let's talk about Aries, the sign first. It's the lead-off man. It's the individual. It's the starter. Let's get it started, right? Aries has no plan, okay? Aries is going to make a lot of mistakes. Early on, though, that's the great thing about Aries. While everybody's looking around and watching, Aries is taking off. What are y'all waiting for, right? So even the observers, they're watching, they're doing the researchers over there. You got your scientists chiming in. But Aries is the subject. Aries is the person that everybody's watching to see what's going to happen. And, there's a flip side to it. It's a double-edged sword because, when they do find out the things that no one ever knew, they're going to get praised for it, right? However, when things go sour, things go left, and they start making those mistakes that I'm talking about, people are going to look at them like, oh my God, you're crazy. Why would you do that? You understand what I'm talking about? And, Aries can be like firecrackers, right? When they respond to situations, it's not what's going to be politically correct. It's not what you're always going to hear. It's going to be something that they filter through the eyes of a singular person, right? So when you're dealing with people, when there are other people involved, it's difficult for them to consider that other person. Even when they're talking to them, they can be in love with you and all of that. However, if you're asking them for advice, if you need a shoulder to lean on or whatever the case may be, they're not empathizing with you. That's not their thing. That's not what they do. What they're doing, if they are telling you something out of care and concern, is they're telling it the way that they see it. Okay, so it's like, I've said this before in talks that I've done, like, you can ask people for advice, right? And then they'll tell you, instead of saying what's good for you, they'll tell you what's good for them. So they'll tell you what they would do, not if they were in your shoes. They'll tell you what they would do if they were in that situation. And it's not the same thing. And this is why I say that when it comes to compatibility, this thing is going to be turbulent. Because an Aries, this is what I know from dealing with Aries woman. And I don't want to include myself. However, I just want to make a short reference here so I can give you more insight into why I think this way. It's because from dealing with Aries women, I sense that they need something to complete them, to make them whole. And I just got a comment on a previous video that I did, and I can't wait to do this video about Pisces and Aries update, because they made a comment that says that they want to be emotionally frustrated. And that, I believe, was the missing piece of what I needed to update on this Aries Pisces thing. But let me not steal the spotlight. Back to Aries. So I sat back and I said, well, you know what? Let me go as deep as I possibly can to look for something that everyone can relate to and say, okay, if this thing was to happen, if this thing was to work, how would it be? Okay, so what I came up with is this. The perfect example of an Aries man and Aries woman relationship is the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Have you seen it? If you haven't, it might even be on YouTube. Search it on YouTube. If not, watch that movie, all right? It's a great movie, by the way. It's with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, right? So, they're two assassins and they're married. And they live double lives. They don't know that they do what they do until it happens. They crash. And this is why I said this is a great example, because they clash they start figuring each other out because they're like, hold on, you're like me. And then they're like, well, hold on, you're like me, right? And what they realize is that's what attracted me to you. Like when they say similar traits attract, like this is what happened with these two. And you can see it as the movie progresses, right? What I want you to look at with this movie is, right, they are highly individual. They are individuals and they need counseling. Like I believe the movie begins by them having marriage counseling, right? And this is how this thing would play out. And the reason why that mediator is there is because these are two individuals. If they had the capability to deal with people, if they were really people persons like that, then they would have been able to do this thing on their own, even when finding out these secret lives about each other, right? They couldn't do it. They still needed a mediator. And if you look deeper into their personal endeavors, right? Angelina had a team of people behind her staff, and Brad had a team of people behind him and his staff. And they confided in them to be what? Leaders, to lead the way, to be those people that was going to go out, do the mission, get it done, and get back, right? And then when things went sour, things went left, they blew everything up. And what happened when they found each other out? Think about this, right? When they found each other out, each other's teams were backing the leader. This is perfect Aries logic right here. Because Aries are leaders, and when they do find people, when they find their tribe, it's because of the way that they lead. Okay, so as I said before, they're not the greatest people persons, but however, when they do what they do, and enough people observe it, and they say, you know what, that's the guy I'm following, that's the girl I'm following, and then they have their tribe, they have their team. So all of the mistakes that they've made, you know, they've become seasoned into this person that will take on the scars, that will take on the bruises, and, you know, they embody those Mars traits that is warrior-like. And as I said, like even in the movie, it was difficult for them to see eye to eye because they are such singular identities. So what happens? Instead of them finding out that, okay, you do the same thing that I do, this should be great, we can get together and do this, that, and the third. It did not happen that way. They started going at each other to the point where they even had a mission to where they had to take each other out. Did they stop the mission? No, that's not what Aries people do. They don't stop the mission. They are warriors. They must go on with it, all right? So this is the example that I'm using to describe this relationship. So how do you be compatible when you operate like this? You need someone to mellow you out. And I'm not necessarily saying that they need an opposite sign or water needs a fire sign and stuff like that. I'm not saying that either because, as I said before, what makes them attracted to each other is they admire the attributes that they observe in the other person. All right? And in the movie, I'm not 100% correct. However, I think Angelina Jolie, I think she couldn't even fathom to believe that Brad was an assassin. Like, I think he didn't come across to her like that. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, when you watch the movie, you see how aggressive he was with her when meeting her and wanting to get with her and stuff like that. Like, you could tell he had that drive in him. He had that type of passion that says, I'm supposed to be with this girl. Now, whether he goes around killing people and stuff like that, that's a whole entire different story. So my point here, though, is that the leadership qualities, that drive is what brought them together. You understand what I'm saying? And, you know, even through the turmoil, they still admire those qualities about each other. And they were highlighted and emphasized when they were in war, when other people were coming to get them because they didn't take each other out yet. So now it's, you know, people are coming to kill them. So now they are using their qualities to take on the people who are coming to get them, right? So how would this work? So if we were going to ask how would this work, it would be, they would have to be against the whole world. Like there would be no way that a collective society could exist with these two people in the world. They don't see that way, right? They only see through the singular lens. And it's war-like. Everything is warlike. So there's no, if you're at war when you're at work, you're at war when you come home. You got enemies over here, and now your significant other is your enemy as well. And it's fire with fire. You know what they say, don't fight fire with fire. But how can you tell that to two Aries? You know? So it's a difficult thing to manage, if you ask me.
Yeah, shorty's on me, but I ain't jacking her. Dust settles, I don't have to the spectacular. As above, as below, speaking my vernacular. I'ma hop into my avatar. You should hop into your avatar. Let's update each other's repertoire. As above, as below, I hop into her avatar. Put them rose petals on my wood. If we hanging out, two-face, homie, then chick, still I bring it out. Blue or red, pick, make a wish, bring it out. Stuff my candlestick in your cake, turn that cake around. I'ma hop into my avatar. You should hop into your avatar. Let's update each other's repertoire. As above, as below, I hop into her avatar.